Okay, here we go. My favorite part of the year now. We are going to be talking about who could be traded next week. And I have no idea where anybody's going. Excuse me. So before we start talking about the guys who could be on the move, I just want to talk a little bit about how stupid it is that the trade deadline is on July 31st of every year instead of in August. David, do you agree with me? Do you think it's a way too early now that there's no waiver trade deadline?
Yeah, I was about to say, why do you think it's so early? I agree with you because there is no waiver trade deadline, because we've created more I guess we're attempted parity in more playoff teams. So more teams have the opportunity to make the playoffs. Then we're sitting there and looking at this and saying, if you have more teams that are completely all involved in this later, you're going to have less teams that are actually willing to trade, less teams that are willing to move. Like, why would I trade for or trade away players when I can squeak into the playoffs? And that's kind of an issue that they have created that has stopped a lot of this trade deadline. I think Major League Baseball is probably much more worried about getting teams into the playoffs and getting that revenue than they are about trades, right? Major League Baseball probably doesn't really care, but it creates energy, it creates excitement, and creates better teams. So to me, I think the smartest thing, and this was one of your ideas, move the trade deadline back. Yeah. Let's start there. Move the trade deadline back. Let's let some of these teams fall out, or let some of these teams kind of cement that they actually are in it, and then make moves. Maybe what you do is you do a couple different trade deadlines, and maybe if you trade earlier, there's a little bit more incentives to do that, or if you trade later, you there's less incentives maybe, or something. Because like we're at the stalemate of the season, like a lot of exciting teams, a lot of exciting baseball, but the trade deadline is in this weird spot now that they've created the playoffs the way they have. Their teams don't want to necessarily move. Like, why should I give up as much when I don't need as much to get to the playoffs? And we used to look at it and say we needed the Yankees need a third baseman to make the playoffs. But right now they don't. They'll make the playoffs. They just need it to win the World Series. But a lot of teams are like, why would I do that when making the playoffs is good enough and I'm in?
Yeah. I don't know if you need to make different trade deadlines. I think you just need to move it back. And to me, August 21st, 3 weeks later, makes the most sense. You don't need it to be right there in the beginning of September when you have September call-ups and some teams are out of it and you don't know what's going on. But August 21st, you wait 3 more weeks, you're going to get rid of some of the junk teams that are currently in a position where they could make the playoffs if everything went right. I'll give you a perfect example, the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. Is there any reason right now
Los Angeles Angels of Orange County, Southern LA, and Anaheim, at Disneyland? You got to make sure Disneyland's in there.
But is there any reason for them to believe that they are buyers right now at the deadline? They're 4.5 or 4 games out right now. They have a very young team. There's really no reason for them to go crazy to try to make the playoffs when they're not good enough to make the World Series. So why don't you just trade away some guys and build for the future? It's not necessary for you to go after it right now when there's really no chance of you really making the playoffs or doing anything if you.
So if I'm looking at this, if I'm looking at their team, sorry, I kind of skipped there. I didn't realize you were still talking. Didn't mean to cut you off. But like, yes, they're close enough, but they're far enough. It's starting to get into a spot of like, okay, Taylor Ward, like where are they at? They still have 2 more. They still have a couple years of control, but like, where are you at with that? Jorge Soler, still can provide power somewhere. You have this core group of some younger players that are doing good, but like Reggiano or Regine Foe. Oh my God, I keep screwing up his name. He's a guy that might garner some interest somewhere. You get to that pitching staff, and like Kikuchi was a great sign, a great player to bring in. Tyler Anderson was a great player to bring in a couple of years ago, but now are they going to be a part of those steps going forward, right? Did you hit gold on Kikuchi and can optimize that and get a lot more than I don't know necessarily right off the top of my head his contract with the Angels, but is it going to give you more in return than what you have, right? So he signed a 3-year, $63 million deal through 27. You're getting, I mean, I'm okay with them keeping him, but I'm okay with them trading him too, because that might be like one of the best pitchers on the market if you decided to. You hit gold. Kenley Jansen, you hit some gold, dude. Like he's pitching great. Some of these guys in this bullpen, you're doing really well with this stuff. So the Angels are that interesting team, and where do you go with Mike Trout? Like he started to play better ish, like he's back ish. So do you try something there, or do you just eat that contract and just let Mike be an Angel for life? They're an interesting team, but it's a team like Baltimore, a team like Pittsburgh, these teams that are like for sure on that outside looking in that
but there's just not enough of them.
There's not enough of them. The Diamondbacks, the Diamondbacks for sure. Like I hate to say this, but the Diamondbacks are playing like a team that needs to get gutted and keep the core, but gut the team. The Nationals are getting to the spot of, let's go, dudes. Like, I need to see better. Like, you're a 41 win team, and you're supposed to be getting better. Like, you're going backwards. The Angels, the Twins, gutting the Twins. I am absolutely gutting the Twins.
Well, we'll get to the Twins later because there's a guy on the Twins that I really want to talk about. So let's start going through some of the rumors and some of the players and some of the teams that could be open for business. And the first one I want to bring up is one of the most intriguing. There are rumors out there that the Guardians are willing to listen to trade offers for Steven Kwan and Emmanuel Clase. I mean, both of those guys are absolutely incredible. Do you think they would make that move? And if I'm another team, I would love to have either of those guys on my team.
Okay, so if I'm looking to trade the two of the two, Emmanuel Clase, I am much more willing to trade for him. He's got $6 million, $10 million in 2027, and $10 million 28. But the one thing I know, and and we all know, relievers only last so long.
Yep.
And
you know better than anybody.
And used. And it's just screaming to me like you might, like with the numbers kind of coming down this year, and again, the numbers come down. He's at 286. But a little bit more hittable, and it's a very valuable contract. The thing with both of these guys, their contracts are so valuable. You can get years and years of control with these guys at cheap. If I'm the Guardians, who should change their name back to the Indians, but if I'm the Guardians, I am without a doubt listening. Kwan is a bigger part of this team for the future to me. Where do you feel about that? I need a lot to give up on Kwan. Clase is the best reliever like in baseball. Has been incredible. Maybe not this year, but Kwan to me, like he's so much bigger part of that team.
I mean, it doesn't make any sense for me when you have a guy who's under control with Steven Kwan, who does everything that you want him to do, who doesn't have a huge salary. That's the kind of guy I want to keep. I want those good, solid, offensive players. And what I like about Kwan is he just puts the ball in play. He's, Ichiro Jr., where he just wants to get hit after hit after hit. He's going to play good, solid defense. He's not going to cost you a lot. I would love to have that guy on my team, but if I'm the Guardians,
glove winner the last 3 years, 2-time All-Star, but they're both under control for the same amount of years.
Yeah,
2 years after this.
Yeah, I would keep him for the next couple of years and see if maybe next year or the year after, if I can trade him for a bigger package once he gets towards free agency, or Yeah, no, you won't get a bigger package when he's closer to free agency, obviously. But what you will do is you will have more teams going after him because there will be more teams willing to give up less to get that guy. So you'll probably have 2 or 3 teams right now that are willing to give up a great package, but later on, you're going to have 7 or 8 teams who are willing to give up a very good package. I want the options later on. And I think that the Guardians are a well-run organization, a team that can come back from this. So why not keep him for a couple of years and see if I can make a run with a guy who I like, with a guy who can do the job, because you're going to need a guy like that later. So trading Stephen Kwan doesn't make any sense. If I am another team, I want him immediately.